Nelson, Willie, for his voice, his bandana, and that serene grin of his songs that made us feel at home, but far away. The song featured a man who was in more pain. Compared to most people, he made the globe sing, yet his personal life was filled with sorrow at losing everyone he loved, observing the passing of friends, and coping with health worries that almost cost him everything. The hits continued to come as he grew older. In life as well as in music, what ultimately happened to Willie Nelson is fans didn't anticipate joining us. As we reflect on the devastating Willie Nelson's voyage and the last Willie's chapter, a country legend in his early years, Willie Nelson was born in Abbott, Texas, a small town, by April 29, 1933. However, things were difficult from the start. His Merle and Ira's parents divorced soon after. His mother departed first after his birth. Afterward, his father remarried and also departed. Bobby, his older sister, and Willie were abandoned. They were brought up by their grandparents despite the fact that their parents weren't present. The children didn't develop. Their grandparents loved them despite being alone. And actually music, and they ensured Bobby and Willie were up surrounded by. Willie once stated in an interview that neither of them had a means of. They truly took care of us and did us a favor. Blacksmithing was Willie's grandfather's occupation. Willie would frequently assist him, but life took a tragic turn once more when his grandfather died of pneumonia. When he was 6 years old, Willie wrote an autobiography titled, "Our Estrangement from Mom and Dad appeared to be worse than a death as a result of their continued absence throughout the globe, but they weren't accompanied by Bobby and I as they were meant to be. The suffering caused by that loss that persisted." His grandfather had provided him with. Willie was 6 when he got his first guitar. At what age did he begin studying chords? He was already composing his own at the age of 7. In church, he performed gospel songs, and even joined Bohemian Pulla, a local band. When I was just 9 years old, music was more than. It evolved from a pastime to an escape. Yet Willie, life wasn't always easy, even with music. And his family gathered cotton in the sweltering heat. In order to survive, he previously detested the Texas sun. Stated in Roll Me Up and Smoke, his autobiography. "I was picking cotton here when I passed away. Feeling hot and believing there's a better approach to earn enough money." He was correct, but the path to that, the better life, was still a long way off. Teen with a dream and a guitar. By when Willie reached adolescence, he has already experienced more adversity than numerous adults, yet he persisted. Began dancing and performing in local bars. He was only 13 years old when he started making money by music as others made their way home from. Willie was taking a break from school to play his guitar at night in order to assist with his. Willie's family has numerous musical influences he listened to as a child. Legends such as Bob Wills and Hank Williams, Frank Sinatra, and even Django Reinhardt. His distinct voice was molded by all those noises. And fashion. Willie wasn't in high school. He played football and only talked about music. He also raised baseball and basketball via the Future Farmers of Pigs America. But music was always that drew him in most forcefully. During high, he joined a band at school called the. His sister was the leader of the Texans. Bud Fletcher, their spouse, played every on a little radio station on a Sunday morning. Willie was already in Hillsboro, Texas, adjusting to playing in front of an audience even if the audience was hearing from their homes. But the money from music wasn't all that bills, so Willie also took up side employment. Was a tree trimmer, a phone operator, and life was all about working in a pawn store. Regarding survival, and Willie took any action following graduation, he joined the U.S. Air Force, but that didn't endure either. He was released after only 8 months. Later, due to back issues, he continued to go despite another obstacle. Going forward, attempting, failing, and attempting once more. Following his military service, Willie enrolled in a college in an attempt to study at Baylor University. He even became a member of a fraternity in agriculture. Tau Kappa Epsilon was called, but he was unable to. The music industry was beckoning, so stay still. And he left school in 1956 to pursue that full-time, but dreams don't bring in the money. Willie took on additional odd jobs in order to obtain. He used to work as a nightclub bouncer, manufacturer, a partsman in a car dealership, and he even worked as a tree trimmer once again. The band of his pal Johnny Bush he finally relocated to Pleasanton, however. He received his first shot in Texas. At running a radio station as a DJ. He was hired by K-Bop station. Despite Willie's lack of a radio experience, that brief respite was beneficial to him. In 1955, he recorded his debut tracks, which were The Storm Has Just Started, and when he utilized the song, My Last Hillbilly, which I sang. Repurposed tapes to capture and transmit them to a label but were turned down. Nevertheless, he continued to work at many radio stations, including one he also performed in Denton and Fort Worth. Nightclubs with live music and instruction Sunday classes during the day, after which he felt that perhaps a new beginning might be beneficial. He gathered his belongings and attempted to relocate to San Diego, but he was unable to find employment. They are either discussing what occurred next demonstrates how resolute Willie was. A ditch, a freight train, and a $10 lifeline in San Francisco with nowhere to go. Willie began working as a hitchhiker to his mother lived in Portland, Oregon. But nobody came to get him, thus he ended up imagine that little sleeping in a ditch. Willie Nelson playing a guitar by himself and without a home or a ride at that time, though it could have broken him. He finally boarded a freight train. Traveling from there to Eugene, Oregon, a good-hearted truck driver scooped him up and drove him to. He even provided Willie a ride to the bus terminal. A ticket to Portland costs $10, which a small gesture of generosity gave Willie his. Even then, success wasn't the next chance. Willie remained at the door, waiting. Putting in a lot of effort while switching jobs. At one point, he even sold another door-to-door encyclopedias, but he didn't. He previously declared, "I feel good about it." In an interview, the people I was trying to sell to were, despite living in basic apartments, I felt regretting selling a $600 set of books to those who were unable to purchase a couch. Eventually, he began working hard. He sold his first song, Family, to pay for it. Bible for the Soul. That $100 moment altered everything. Convinced him that he could indeed make it, at which point he packed up once more and relocated to Nashville in preparation to put all of his energy on country music. The journey was difficult and painful. Long nights and rejection, but it was also full with modest gestures of goodwill and music. Willie Nelson's tale of moments of optimism didn't begin in celebrity, rather, it began in radio booths, churches, cotton fields, and even railroad tracks, and as a result of everything, legend began a lengthy journey with numerous. By 1956, Willie Nelson had already endured a lot. He was employed by a Vancouver, Washington, radio station and appeared on local television as well. He recorded his debut song around that period. Sadly, the single, No Place for Me, is the record. Didn't perform well, but Willie persisted. Served as a radio host and played at night at clubs. He even visited Missouri and Colorado, seeking chances but finding none truly worked out. Following an attempt to get on Ozark Jubilee and his failures, ended up doing the dishes in order to stay alive. Willie returned to Texas because he felt stuck. He briefly resided in Waco before relocating. Subsequently moved to Fort Worth and gave up music. During that hiatus, he sold for a year door-to-door vacuum cleaners and Bibles. He eventually rose to the position of sales manager for. In 1958, his son appeared in Encyclopedia Americana. Willie and his family welcomed Billy into the world. Then relocated to Houston en route. Visited the ballroom at Esquire and attempted to market a song of his, Mr. for $10. The singer Larry hired a record man. Butler gave him the music but didn't purchase it. A 6-night singing job and a $50 loan. Willie benefited from that modest act at the club. In Pasadena, Texas, rent an apartment. There, he resumed his career as a DJ. Additionally, he recorded 2 additional singles during Willie's big break. This time occurred when he sold Paul the song, Family Bible. Buskirk sold Nightlife for $50. For $150. Despite the fact that he did not keep the Family Bible songs became popular for Claude Gray as a singer in 1960. Willie felt that pursuing music was still worthwhile. Thus, he packed everything and relocated once more. Nashville this time, but even in the journey was the birthplace of country music. Not at all simple to write for other people and surviving on optimism. When Willie arrived in 1960, he was unable to locate in order to sign a record label. He spent time at Tootsie Orchid Lounge as a bar close to the Grand Ole Opry was well liked. Location for songwriters and vocalists. He was playing with some musicians that day. When he caught the attention of songwriter Hank Cochran. Cochran recently received a raise, but rather of keeping it, he questioned his supervisor. To pay Willie with that sum of money. To decide to sign with Pamper Music. One of the songs transformed Willie's life. Hello was Willie's performance at Tootsie's. Farron Young, a singer for The Walls, liked it and chose to videotape it, which aided in obtaining when Willie's name was revealed. Country music icon Ray Nittife's price was noted when he invited someone who required a new bass player. When Willie joined his band, he hit the road alongside the Cherokee Cowboys, and him while on the road with Willie's songs began to gain popularity, but not his music was recorded by different vocalists. Funny How Time Slips was sung by Billy Walker. Roy Orbison sang Away and Pretty Paper. Patty Clean's most well-known recording, Crazy Klein's, has a backstory as well. Charlie Dick, Charlie's husband, heard Crazy on the He really enjoyed the jukebox at Tootsie's. He performed the demo at home for at that moment, Pat made the decision to videotape it. The jukebox tune became the most played song of all time. Despite the fact that other become well known for his songs, Willie still desired to play his own songs. In 1961, he signed with Liberty Records and began recording his duet in Nashville. Shirley Colley Voluntarily reached Touch, his solo hit, also made the top 10. His debut album was published in 1962. Willie Tut and Then I Wrote in 1963 got married in Las Vegas to Shirley Colley. Thereafter relocated to California to work at the Pamper Records offices, but that position prevented him from performing much, so he departed. And relocated once more, purchasing a ranch this time. His latter years in Ridgetop, Tennessee had many highs and lows, but nothing could get him ready for the upcoming RCA years of A House Fire and nearly giving up Fred Foster from Monument. In the beginning of 1964 Willie was signed to records, but only one, I Never Cared for You When You Were Single. Shortly after, Willie relocated to RCA. Victor, assisted by Chad Atkins, agreed to pay $10,000 a year for his. The title of the first RCA album was Country. In April, Willie recorded his own songs. In 1965, Willie became a member of the Grand Ole Opry, made pals as well with Juan Jennings following the viewing of one of after his performances in Arizona. Willie founded a group known as the Record Men that Paul English and Johnny Bush were among them. During this period, his music didn't develop big hits, but he was gradually establishing an audience between 1966 and 1969, including some of his songs that were included in the top 25 once in a row. The Party's Over, along with a rendition of Among Them were Bring Me Sunshine. Better performing songs, but weren't simple in the background. Willie utilized the majority of his income to finance excursions, and those excursions weren't bringing in addition to having enough money. Shirley Collie was divorced in 1970, after which a catastrophe occurred in December 1970 at Willie's Tennessee ranch caught fire and burnt. Totally down for Willie, that was an indication that life was driving him to take a different route, so he departed from Tennessee. Thereafter relocated to a property close to Bandera, Texas. Additionally, he remarried, this time to his single, I'm a Memory, by Connie Kepke reached the top 30 at the beginning of 1971, but they wanted him to, but RCA wasn't pleased. Willie declined to extend his contract earlier. The RCA then threatened to withhold his music following his album's failure. Wine from Yesterday made Willie feel defeated. Made the decision to give up music. Up to becoming the country's outlaw leader in 1972, Willie Nelson was prepared to go. Despite the fact that he had written popular tunes for other people's careers remained the same as People magazine stated that Willie was so irritated that he supplied RCA $14,000 only to breach his agreement. He returned to Texas and purchased an old Greyhound bus and began to perform in bars and other tiny locations in Austin. But there was something unique going on, and there was a growing music scene in Austin, crowded with individuals who were indifferent to these performers were subject to Nashville's rules, who only desired to have their say. Willie, by 1973, he had signed a contract with Shotgun, was released by Atlantic Records. Phases and Stages followed Willie. Albums had a fresh, unclean sound. It was polished and sounded like Nashville music. Raw, genuine, and brimming with emotion. This new outlaw country was the name of the style in 1975. After he relocated to Columbia Records, recorded the album Red-Headed Stranger. Was unique, yet people adored it because he worked on another record in the same year. With Juan, named Wanted. The Outlaws' Tom Glazer, Jesse Coulter, and Jennings turned into a huge success. Willie wasn't. He has evolved from a songwriter to a spokesperson for a brand new genre of country music, and his success only increased in the 1980s, when he made records such as Honeysuckle Rose and hit songs like As On the Road Again, To All the Girls and Poncho and Lefty. He also joined a group called I've Loved Before, named Johnny Cash's The Highwaymen. Chris Christopherson and Juan Jennings and the Willie assisted in setting up Farm Aid in 1985. Concert to aid Americans in need. It was a tremendous occasion, farmers, and still occurs year, and Willie has never missed a one-person discussing which by the Willie Nelson in the 1970s was more than just he was a well-known artist with albums like Red-Headed and Willie Stardust. Shotgun. He had established himself as a stranger, and from the stage, Hollywood took note to screenwriters such as Sidney Pollack desired to have him in their films. Willie ended appearing in movies such as Electric, Robert Redford, Thief and Horseman. Stagecoach. Despite his lack of belief, he tried it since he was a very good actress. I essentially play myself as whoever I am, allegedly said by Willie, and that doesn't need much acting. He might not received any acting honors. However, he did receive something equally unique as submission for the award for Best Original Song at the It was for the movie Honeysuckle at the Oscars. On the Road Again was the song, Rose. Ironically, he wrote it on the reverse side of Willie enjoyed being in an airline vomit bag. In films, although his initial love was music. I enjoy making movies, he added, but I dislike going, and it's limiting. Too long without performing live. Although behind Willie's celebrity and movies, he was still enduring severe personal suffering, and he almost died from some of that suffering. Leaving Nashville's bad era behind for good. The early years of Willie Nelson in Nashville were difficult. In Me and Paul, his book, talked on how lost he felt at the time. Resided in a parked, dilapidated trailer beside a graveyard. He wasn't receiving several musical performances to make ends meet. he returned. He stated he sold encyclopedias. Didn't typically experience depression, but back then he drank a lot while he was in there. Attempting to deal, but that simply made everything worse. Even worse, he kept noticing other people at the pub. Musicians achieving the level of success he did, still waiting for a night. As he drank, a melody suddenly came to him. Lightning Hopkins, Trouble in My Mind. One of the lines was, "I'm going to place my head on a lonely person's railroad line." That remained in his memory since there was no train in the area. Willie into the center of a typically laid down on a busy street, yet he was easily avoided by no traffic autos, and he had a change of heart during that silent time. Was I disappointed, or was I relieved? I'm not positive that he wrote all I know. I got up and returned to Tootsie's, and fortunately managed to get another drink during the evening, but the anguish in his love secrets were not the end of his life. And Willie's love life after a broken marriage experienced a lot of ups and downs. In his book Me with Sister Bobby, he discussed a moment that fundamentally altered his. In his second marriage, he was still Shirley Colley, a singer, is his wife, yet he having fathered a child in secret with the truth about another woman.